Welcome back to the Dear Old State update brought to you by Penn State Sports Night. I'm Brianna Langberg, and I'm alongside Aaron Riley, and we have the latest on everything Penn State sports.
Between Penn State wrestling finishing off the regular season undefeated in a dominant fashion and women's hockey winning the AHA semifinal, it has been a busy couple weeks in Penn State athletics. Our beat reporters have the inside scoop. The Dear Old State update starts now.
Penn State women's basketball fell short of making the tournament, ending their season on Saturday. Chase, Alec, and Brian have more.
Penn State women's basketball had their season end in heartbreak this past weekend. The Lady Lions entered last Saturday needing a win over Indiana or a Purdue loss against Northwestern to make the Big Ten tournament. Instead, the Hoosiers blew out the Lady Lions in Assembly Hall, and the Boilermakers defeated the Wildcats to keep the Lady Lions from heading to Indianapolis. The bitter result raises a lot of questions about the future of Lady Lions hoops, while me, Alec, and Brian will discuss. So, guys, what went wrong this season with the Lady Lions?
Well, in the game of basketball, there's offense and defense, Chase, and unfortunately, the Penn State Lady Lions did not do a good job on the defensive side of the ball. They were among one of the worst teams in the country. Matter of fact, they were second to last in points per game allowed this entire season at around 82 points per game. The only team worse than them was Indiana State, and that's not really a conversation you want to be in. And just the real problem with that was there was no just other defense going out when all the talent was going to offense. Merkel was getting the ball so much, McMillan was getting the ball so much that they didn't really have that option to, lock in on defense and make those big plays. Big men were also a huge deficit for this team. It was only Mendelsohn out there along with Merkel, and just that two tandem just was not enough. They were okay at rebounding and stuff like that, but weren't getting a lot of steals, weren't getting a lot of blocks. And when you give up 82 points a game, they say defense wins championships, and that's just not a recipe for success.
Yeah, I mean, it's just talking about momentum game by game. I mean, one thing led to another. Penn State lost their first 11 Big Ten matchups and didn't win a game in either December or January. Their first one being against Purdue back in earlier last month. So it's really that, and especially turning over to the other side of things individually. Mariah Murray did not have the year that she was expecting to have, kind of the same numbers as she did last year, going down 1 point per game. Obviously, she did improve in her three-point shooting, but still below 40 beyond the arc. So, I mean, it's really, there's that, not playing up to the expectations. In one game, she actually had 16 minutes and no points against Maryland. So, really, all those things considered, the team momentum was down, and then Murray just did not play up to her expectations as a top shooter for Penn State.
Well, obviously, you guys talked about a lot of the hardships that they faced this season, but they did end on a little bit of a hot streak, of course, if you want to take out last weekend. But they got a big upset win against USC, had a couple of wins against Rutgers and Purdue down the stretch. But taking some of those positive results, what can they take the positive ending of the season? How can they kind of translate that into better results in 2026 and 2027?
Yeah, I mean, talking about the younger players, especially Nyla McFadden going 11 for 32 from beyond the arc. She had some good minutes in garbage time against Michigan. She showed it quite a few times during the year that she, in fact, can help the offense, and seeing what comes out from the transfer portal, graduation, and all the other stuff. She's going to have to step up big time next year, and I think that's already something that she's left a good impression despite only having 4.5 points per game.
And then, when you look at the rest of the team, Killian Miller is only a sophomore. So that means she has 2 more years with the program potentially. And she's already surpassed that 1,000 career mark, point scoring wise, in her career. So that's already a huge accomplishment. And the team is very good offensively. This team ranks in the top 50 in points per game and field goal percentage as well. So the recipe for success is there. It's a really good 3-point shooting team as well. on the back of people like Mariah Murray and Kim McMiller stepping up for three-point shooting as the season went on. Now, if they can get the bench going and rolling down in the future, this has a lot of potential for it to be a big program.
Now, of course, we talked about the positives and the negatives, but what is it going to take for this Lady Lions teams, whether it's diverging into the transfer portal or maybe getting a new voice in the locker room? I know you hate to speculate about potential head coaching changes, but what is it going to take for this group of Lady Lions to get over the hump and see some success that they haven't had in close to maybe a half decade or so? It's been a little bit since Penn State women's basketball has really kind of been at the top of the Big Ten even.
Well, obviously coaching is important at this level, and we've seen a lot, especially on the men's side too. But at the end of the day, it really does come down to what's going on the court, and a lot of it is not on the bench. There wasn't a lot of bench scoring this year. They're around the middle of the pack in the country, and so if Penn State were to go out in the transfer portal, get a lot more key players for that bench. You know, they tried with Amaya Evans, they tried with players like Maggie Mendelson as well, but they didn't really have that pop that they needed for people like McMiller or Merkel to come in and get rest. So if they can go on the portal or even bring in more young talent, that could be huge for this team's resurgence potentially.
Yeah, and kind of building off of that, I mean, finding a way to make the offense more varied. We saw a lot of duck-ins to the post for Gracie Merkel this year. We saw a lot of Keelan McMiller taking it herself, but just finding shots beyond the arc, finding good shooting, that's especially going to be capped off by what they can do in the transfer portal. And I know it's going to be a great market once they go tap in the mid-majors and, you know, the bench warmers on the power fours. That's a huge thing. But just finding players that can kind of shoot from the corners, shoot from the wings, and, you know, lead that offense, just go off of good shooting, because you especially can't just duck it in the post for Gracie Merkel every single time. You got to find ways out.
Well, it's going to be a long off season in State College as the Lady Lions have more questions than answers heading into it. We now turn it over to Connor Patterson and Evan Smith with a look ahead to Penn State Wrestling's postseason push.
The number 1 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions hosted the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes at a sold-out Bryce Jordan Center in what was the hardest test yet for the blue and white.
Especially a night like this, two of the best teams in the country going head-to-head with a lot of fun matchups and awesome crowd.
The duel got started at 125 pounds where number 1 ranked Luke Lillidahl took on number 2 Nick Buzakis. The bout was tied through 3 periods when Lillidahl picked up the takedown for the 4-1 sudden victory win. Then at 133 pounds, number 4 ranked Marcus Blaze took down number 2 Ben Davino in the 5th period with a reversal for the 3-2 tiebreaker win. Keel Sanderson loves having Lillidahl and Blaze go back-to-back to open up a duel.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both dogs. They're both competitors, right? So they're going to they get stronger as the match goes on.
It was an action-packed night at the Bryce Jordan Center. From an attendance record of 16,006 people to 2 overtime wins. To top that, 2 of the best matches of the night came at 184 and heavyweight. After the break, it was time for 184 pounds. Number 1 ranked Rocco Welsh was taking on number 8 Dylan Fishback. Welsh was down 4-0 after 2 periods. Welsh got the winning takedown with 10 seconds left against his former team. 2 weights later, it was time for the heavyweights. Number 12 ranked Cole Mirasola was a big underdog up against number 3 Nick Feldman. Mirasola was able to tie the match early in the 3rd with an escape. Mirasola then was able to land the sudden victory takedown in the 4th period, causing the biggest upset of the night. Cole Mirasola says he's not done yet.
Yeah, I mean, I took some losses this year, but I just feel like I'm right there. I'm ready to win the national title, and just those losses don't really define me, and I'm just really excited to see what happens.
The Nittany Lions won their 6th straight regular season Big Ten title. They have one more regular season match before they shift their attention to the postseason. For Penn State Sports Night, I'm Nico Rodriguez.
Penn State officially closed out its regular season with a 15-0 victory over Princeton. The Nittany Lions finished with a perfect 15-0 record, extending their dual meet win streak to 83 straight matches. They also captured their 12th Big Ten regular season title under head coach Kale Sanderson. I'm Connor Patterson, joined by Evan Smith. So, Evan, I want to turn it over to you and just see your thoughts on that Ohio State match.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because coming into that duel, we're out here thinking this is Penn State's biggest chance to, have an entertaining duel match for the first time since at least we've been in college. And then as the day goes about, we find out Ohio State's scratching a lot of guys. Carson Hartzell was injured. Brandon Cannon was injured. Ethan Stiles was just straight up ducking Shane Van Ness. And it ended up being another one of those Penn State blowouts and kind of like a celebration of what this Penn State dynasty has become, where they blew out the Ohio State Buckeyes in front of a record crowd. And there's barely any matches during that even seemed close.
And those first two matches with Lillardale and Blaze were probably the closest of the night. They both went to extra time, and both Penn Staters came out on top. But the Buckeyes came in ranked number 2 overall as a team, and that makes me think about the question, is Penn State wrestling the greatest college sports dynasty there is, or is it kind of overshadowed by the footballs and the basketballs of the world?
I think they're the greatest dynasty in sports, period. What they're going to do right now, 12 of the last 15 national championships is in unheard of numbers. If you look at some of the coaches that get compared to Kel Sanderson within the wrestling industry, you're looking at Nick Saban. He won 6 out of 17. That's not even in the same ballpark. And then you have below him, Bill Belichick. He was just carried by Tom Brady the whole time. I don't think Jordan Hudson would have any effect on Kel Sanderson the way that he did on Belichick. So, and what's more impressive is they're doing it during the start of the NIL era. They're not getting these top wrestling prospects anymore. If you look at next year's class, Bill Bassett, Melvin Miller, they're 2 PA guys. They didn't choose Penn State, but I don't think this dynasty is going to be slowing down anytime soon because they work with what they got and they make them the best in the country.
Yeah, I think he's definitely deserves to be in the talk with the Nick Sabans of the world and the Bill Belichicks because of what he's done. And in a post-game conference the other night, I think it was against Ohio State, someone asked him about NIL, and he said, I don't have to pay these guys to come here because they want to come here and they want to develop because that's the culture they built within that locker room.
And it's the cookies.
And now speaking of Sanderson, since 2009, they've had 69 individual championships won in the Big Ten. 6 of the 10 wrestlers on Penn State earned a number 1 seed so far in the pre-seeds. Is there anyone that you think is too high or maybe was snubbed?
So I said it last week. I think Penn State has 7 Big Ten title contenders. 7 Big Ten title favorites, 2 Big Ten title contenders, and Braden Davis on the roster. But I think it's if we just break it down by the weight classes here. It started off with Luke Lillardale. He's ranked number 1. What's interesting to see at that weight class is Nick Bouzakis in number 3. I don't know what a Spencer Moore is, but for some reason he's ranked number 2. Below them, a couple guys that are contenders. I got Jor Volk and Dean Peterson being some guys that might surprise some folks, but look for Lillardale to get a rematch against Bouzakis in the finals, and it might go a different way because Bouzakis was injured in that first time they fought.
Yeah, and those two with Lillardale, and like I touched on Blaze a little bit, those were both so close that I think if we do see a rematch, it could go the other way for sure. And looking up at 157 with PJ Duke, that match we flipped back to Nebraska with Antrell Taylor, who earned the number 1 seed. That was a pretty controversial match. The crowd was getting upset. There was a lot of stalling going on in that match. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, PJ Duke, sponsored by MI Windows, endorsed, by the way. He's ranked number 2 below Taylor. I know you don't agree with that one. I personally do, just because they have the head-to-head. Taylor's the defending national finalist. So he's got that resume. What's bad for PJ Duke is that when you go up to that number 7 spot, that's where they put Brandon Cannon. He's the number 1 ranked wrestler in the country. So I don't know quite what they were thinking putting him down there, but that sets up a second-round matchup for PJ Duke that might get him bounced earlier. Now, granted, these are all preliminary seeds. There's a chance they change, and quite frankly, a lot of them really should. I don't know what was going on there. The only guys in that middle of the lineup I think should be set. Shane Van Ness, number 1. He's at a good spot. And then we don't have Braden Davis on the graphic. He's the lowest-ranked guy at number 7 at 141. He's also got a tough first-round matchup going against Joey Olivieri. He might get bounced early, too.
The issue I have with the PJ Duke seeding is, okay, he lost to Taylor head-to-head, but I think Duke is right up there, maybe more talented than them. And the controversy I have is that you have Haynes at 174, and he beat him head-to-head, and he's ranked number 2. So I think Duke himself, if the head-to-head isn't mattering as much as they showed in these rankings, I think Duke has a case to be number 1 with how much talent he's shown at his age.
Yeah, 174 is the indictment on they have some sort of math system that they use to determine it with no real human input. To me, that's just proof that AI is awful. Levi Haynes being number 2 just makes zero sense. He's below Christopher Minto. Minto is a guy who has lost both Levi Haynes and 3 guys below him. He doesn't have a great resume, and it wasn't exactly a close match either. So I don't know what they're thinking with that one.
Yeah, so now let's flick down to 285. We have Mirasola. He lost to AJ Ferrari, lost to Ted Gillidahl, but he beat Nick Feldman recently against Ohio State, and he falls at number 4. Do you agree with that ranking?
Yeah, they had a tough time going through making that 285 because I think it's the most competitive top 4 that there is. Because you got Ty Jadali, who lost to Ferrari. You got Nick Feldman, who beat Ferrari. Mirasola, who beat Feldman. So it's kind of like cannibalizing each other down there. So I do think they got it right. With that said, I think he's got a rough pass to be order to win that title.
So now looking at these 10, I quickly want to ask you, out of these 10, who do you think has the best chance to come home with a Big Ten title or even a national championship a little farther?
Yeah, looking through them, Messenbrink wins Law. He's just going to take 165 with some ease. Josh Barr has very little competition at 197. And even Shane Van Ness, he's got a pretty easy path down at 149. I think those are the three that you can look to be shoo-ins.
Yeah, definitely agree with those picks, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out with this coming weekend. The Big Ten championships begin March 7th and run through March 8th. Penn State will host the tournament at the Bryce Jordan Center. The Nittany Lions will look to carry their dominance into the postseason. From the mat to the ice, let's hear from Brianna and Aaron for an update on women's hockey.
Thanks, Evan and Connor. Success does not stop there. Penn State women's hockey is 22-2 in conference play, and after sweeping the AHA semifinals tournament, they are championship bound. They took down the Orange in the semifinals and now head to the AHA championship to face Mercyhurst, a team they are very familiar with.
If they win the AHA championship, this will be their fourth title in a row. Penn State women's hockey also has their first Olympic gold medalist, Tessa Janicki, who was the first woman from Penn State to be on the USA women's hockey Olympic roster. Both Nicole Fall and Matilde Fantine also competed at this year's Winter Olympics.
The AHA tournament was the first time the Olympians returned to Pegula. On Friday night, Janicki scored her fourth hat trick of her career, helping the team beat the Orange 7-0.
On Saturday night, the Nittany Lions defeated the Orange 2-1. The most impressive part about this game in particular was that by the end of the first period, the Orange had 0 shots on goal, demonstrating their ability to contain the puck offensively. Head coach Jeff Campersall talked about their adjustment this week, having the Olympians back on the team as they adjust to the Eastern time zone.
As Penn State heads into the tournament, they are looking to continue their success in their 5th matchup against Mercyhurst. Now we send it to the men's volleyball. Brady, Izzy, and Emily have the latest.
As we cross the halfway mark of the year, Penn State men's volleyball is on a roll in head coach Mark Pavlik's final season at the helm. The Nittany Lions won a perfect 7-0 in the month of February and have won 13 of their last 14 sets, propelling them to an 11-4 record. With help from breakout seasons from Sean Harvey and Owen Rose, they currently sit at the top of the EIVA conference, ranking 16th in the country. Good evening. I'm Brady Welsh, joined alongside Emily Carter and Izzy Mackey. And tonight we're going to be discussing a team finding their groove at the right time, a starting lineup being finalized, as well as taking a look into the tough road ahead. Now, Emily and Izzy, Penn State is currently on that long winning streak, 4-0 in EIVA play. Who or what are some key contributors to the team's success as of late?
Yeah, well, if there is one thing that this team knows how to do, it's set the tone and start off strong, creating those early runs and sets. They demonstrated this in their last matchup against Merrimack. Yeah, Merrimack. That's right. It just went past my brain. But against Merrimack, where they had those 4-0 and 5-0 frees to start, and that was really led by Owen Rose and Matthew Luoma. But they just have this ability to get that immediate momentum going, and it makes them hard to grasp by their opponents. Another thing about this Penn State men's volleyball team that makes them really fun to watch is that they are a team that is really, their defense drives their offense. And now Penn State, they were ranked 17th nationally in digs per set. So you have libero Ryan Merck paired with the whole defensive unit, their ability to play together to keep the ball alive so that you have the hitters. They're then able to just run the offense smoothly and effectively. It creates such a beautiful chemistry that makes them such an entertaining team to watch. I've been thoroughly entertained keeping up with them this season. And another important thing that we should note is that this team, it seems like elite blocking has just been the cornerstone of this team this season, which of course you have to mention Owen Rose when you're talking about elite blocking because he has been on fire. But this team, they're averaging 2.9 blocks per set, which is really impressive and shows their ability to shut down their opponent's attack. So I'm really interested to see if they can keep this up this season. And again, I'm excited to see where this goes.
Emily, I'm so glad you mentioned Owen Rose and his blocking because just the other day in the Harvard game, he broke the record in single game blocks. So the team, as you mentioned, Brady, they're also 4-0 in conference play, and then they're on a 7-game win streak. If that doesn't spell confidence confidence to you, I don't know what does. They're doing a lot of things right, especially in the month of February. They've been looking so good. But I think one of the things that they're doing right is also their offense. They don't have one star that they've really focused on. They have multiple hitters, which is so crucial because it keeps your offense unpredictable.
Yeah.
They don't want to say predictable because that's not what you want to be.
No.
But it keeps their offense unpredictable.
Yeah.
And that's something that confuses the other defense and other teams. And that's why they're able to get such a good lead at the beginning of games. And starting off strong is so important as well. And then also another change that they recently made is giving a lot more playing time to Tristan Hassel.
Yeah.
He didn't really start at the beginning of the year. He was thinking about redshirting. But the difference he's made for this team is tremendous.
It's been electric. It's incredible.
Been great to watch. Every time I go to a game, it's just so great to watch him and how he dominates on the court. So I think that's one of the best things that they've done. They have a balanced offense, and the confidence that they have right now is great. And I think they need a ride on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you both touched on the teamwork aspect. You know, you can't have one player getting all the kills, all the sets, all the blocks. And this has definitely been a team effort this entire 7-game win streak and this entire season as well. But after a couple months of trying to put pieces together, it seems like Coach Pavlik has settled on Tristan Hassel and Michael Schwob as the team's starting opposite hitter and setter. What can we expect to see for the rest of the season and beyond out of this freshman-junior duo?
Yeah, I mean, I can't stop talking about Tristan Hassel. It's been great to see him play, but who doesn't love a rookie-veteran duo? And that's what we have right here. Tristan Hassel, he's a freshman, and then you got Michael Schwob, he's a junior who has great experience and then gives that veteran experience to Hassel. So I think there's a lot of benefits that come with this, both short-term and long-term. Short-term, we see that they have a lot of hard games coming up, and this team, when they're on the court, these two, when they're on the court, it's just so great to watch them because they bring confidence, they bring calmness, they bring a steadiness, and they have crucial plays that make a difference in close games. So I think that's going to be an important thing. And then talking long-term, Tristan Hassel, he's only a freshman, as I mentioned. So him learning and getting experience from a veteran like Michael Schwob, he's going to be gone in 2 years. It's great because he's going to carry what he's learning right now into the next 3 years while he's at Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, Izzy, you really hit it there. But like Tristan Hassel, he's just been popping off recently.
Right.
He has been on fire, and he is proving to be an emerging key contributor. He's incredibly versatile too, which makes him such a valuable player.
Right.
But time and again, he's been able to show up during critical moments. And then you have Schwob, and Schwob is just such a stable playmaker, and he can control the tempo on the court unlike anybody else can. I truly believe that he is the balance of Penn State's offense. He's an incredible distributor. He can distribute anywhere on the court and set up some amazing plays for hitters. He is absolutely incredible. So when you take Hassel's power and you combine that with Schwab's just experience, leadership, and overall control and volleyball IQ, that's a duo right there that is so versatile and so unpredictable and makes them hard for a defense to catch up with and contain. So just long-term, again, I can really see them anchoring this Penn State team in these kind of tough EIVA matchups to come and in the future. And I'm really excited to see, like you said, how Hassel can learn from Schwob because, again, he has so much growth. He can learn so much, and he's only a freshman, which is crazy to think about. So I'm excited to see this duo, especially in these tough conference matchups, how they can be efficient and really shut down some players.
Me too.
Yeah, this duo's emergence this season has been incredible to watch. But looking ahead, the 3-0 sweep against Merrimack marked the end of the Nittany Lions' easier part of the schedule. They now are looking at a difficult road ahead, with each of their next 6 games being against ranked opponents. Now they are 1-4 against ranked opponents this season. So what are some of the biggest things they need to do in order to pull off some upsets?
Yeah, well, Penn State, they're really going to need to focus on maintaining their offensive efficiency. Currently, the team is sitting on an average of 275 of a hitting percentage right there, and they're going to want to get that to 300 ideally if they want to maximize their offensive efficiency. So that means they're going to need to make some smarter swings, and they're going to need to stop forcing kills into well-covered areas. And because that low efficiency, all that does is adds unneeded pressure to that defense, which can really be exploited in tough matchups. Speaking of which, they they got some tough ones coming ahead. Long Beach State coming up. They are an exceptional team. They can play the ball really, really well, and they're an exceptionally good serving team. So Penn State, they're going to need to be on their toes on the serve receive and defensively, and overall just leveraging that elite blocking from players like Rose and those strong digs from Merck in order to really neutralize their opponent's attack. So I'm interested to see how this goes.
Yeah, the month of March for Penn State men's volleyball is not looking too pretty for them. But I think if they have clean serves and they really focus on their balanced offense and a controlled defense, I think that they can do well. I mean, like you said, Long Beach State, Pepperdine, USC, these are all really hard teams. And they just really have to focus on working well with each other and remaining confident, but not too overconfident, because you don't want to come into a game unprepared. So I think they really need to focus just on remaining how they've been playing and remembering how to do that.
Yeah, and when you're on such a hot streak, it's easy to get overconfident. So it's important that they stay level-headed.
100%.
Yes, it is. And this winning streak is definitely the best case scenario when going into playing 3 top 10 teams. But time will tell whether Penn State can pull off these upsets or even make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. But one thing we know for sure is that whatever they do for the rest of the season and wherever they go, all of it will be for PAV. For now, let's toss it over to our men's hockey reporters as the team prepares to make another memorable postseason run.
The Penn State Nittany Lions entered their weekend series against the Ohio State Buckeyes on a 4-game winless streak. The Nittany Lions were also missing several forwards because of injuries, and Coach Guy Godowski said that everyone on the team needed to step up.
We used a lot of different guys. We used McKenna and Fink multiple times, but we used other players as well because you just have to do what you got to do. We also were playing a defenseman was playing up front as well, so we really didn't have a lot of options.
And step up they did, as the Nittany Lions scored 11 goals in Game 1 and completed a comeback down 4-1 in Game 2, winning in overtime. The biggest star of the weekend was Gavin McKenna, who scored 2 goals and had 8 assists across the series.
In Game 1, Gavin McKenna set a program record with 7 assists and 8 points, the most in a single game. How did he top that? By scoring the overtime game-winning goal in Game 2.
McKenna's overtime winner capped a series and season sweep for the Nittany Lions over the Buckeyes.
I was just having fun out there. I think a lot of stuff going on in my life right now, so being out of the rink, being with the guys, that's my happiness.
Penn State will hit the road this weekend for a series against Notre Dame before wrapping up the regular season at home versus Wisconsin. Reporting for Penn State Sports Night, I'm Nate Johns.
Number 5 ranked Penn State has taken their past 3 matchups to overtime, beating Ohio State to sweep their series 2 weeks ago and splitting their series this past weekend at Notre Dame with a shootout win and an overtime loss. Penn State now sits at 20-10-2 in conference play, with their final series of the season coming up this weekend. But before we can look ahead to the future, we need to analyze the past. Nate, let's start with some of the negatives that we've seen over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, with this team, the negative really starts on the defensive end because it feels like every Guy Godowski press conference opens the same way. The goalies are playing well, but the defense is kind of leaving them out to dry. And I get it, when you have injuries and you have defensemen having to play forward, it creates a little bit of depth issues. But also, when you have guys that are selling out offensively, it leads to too many breakaways for the goalies to try and stop. And then, of course, there's the penalty box. When you have those injuries, you cannot be affording to make guys have extra shifts and defend those extra 2 minutes and take even more energy out of them that you don't have, especially when you're trying to gear up for a stretch run. Those have been 2 of the biggest problems for Penn State. And then the biggest one overall has been that they've been consistently inconsistent. You look at them for the past month, ranked Wisconsin team. Going into the Kohl Center, there's exploding trees in the area. They go in and sweep the Badgers, and then you have the Michigan State series, and the Michigan series where they don't win. Then you have Ohio State put up 11 goals in Game 1, and then they have to come back down 4-1 in overtime against a team you've beaten in your 3 previous meetings this year. Now, they still won that game, but then you go to Notre Dame, the worst team in the Big Ten. You struggle there, winning in a shootout, and then losing in overtime. This team is such a roller coaster, they wouldn't look out of place at a Six Flags. Those are just some of the problems that they've had, Cassie. There are a lot of others.
Yeah, you touched on a little bit the injuries. Those have definitely played a role. You have your captain, Dane Dowiak, he's injured. But then you have players like Ford, who's coming back into the lineup. He came back this past weekend. Charlie Serrato, we may see potentially. So as much as the injuries have affected them, they're hopefully getting some of those guys back. But then another thing that's been super inconsistent has been the power play. You know, right now it's ranked 9th, but it's been something that's been so up and down. They had 6 power play goals in the first game against Ohio State, and then you have none against Notre Dame this past weekend. So that's definitely also been a roller coaster for sure. They're still looking too cute sometimes. Guy Gadowski has mentioned that a few times in press conferences earlier in the season, but it's still something that comes back to haunt them a little bit. And then, like you said, the consistency. It's just such a struggle for this team when you're not finishing the games like we saw against Notre Dame, or you're having comebacks and winning big games. So there's definitely a lot of things that are going to need to be worked out, especially for that Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and it seems like the only thing that we've consistently talked about is the amount of time that this team spends in the penalty box. But switching things over from the negative to the positive, Cassie, what's going on with this team? Is there a certain name that we've been hearing a lot about?
Yeah, it does. Gavin McKenna ring a bell to you, Monica?
I think I might have seen him on some Hobie Baker nominee lists.
Yeah, he's been on fire recently. He has 28 points since he's come back from the World Juniors. So he's been such a force. He also set 2 program records in one game. He had 8 points, 7 assists. He also scored this overtime winner that you're seeing right there against Ohio State. So yeah, he's definitely been a player to watch, and he just keeps continuing to get better and better and better. And then the penalty kill, I think, is also definitely a positive. They're 83% right now. So props to definitely the goaltenders and also the whole unit, the defenders, everyone on that line. So that's been super solid for this team.
Yeah, going on the goaltending note a little bit, you have Josh Fleming and Kevin Radler both have save percentages over 900. 2 starting caliber goalies on one team. It's the big reason that Guy Gadowski has kept them sort of in a rotation. And there's going to be a little bit of a controversy with a 1-game series in the Big Ten tournament. So who do you start in that instance? I think it's going to be Josh Fleming, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then on the offensive end for Penn State, it's been their depth scoring. Shea Van Olm specifically has really stepped up. 4 of his 6 goals on the year have come in the last 5 games. 7 of his 10 points have been really important for Penn State to get going, especially when we talk about all the injuries that they have been dealing with. And then Van Olm's also part of this grit fight mentality that they have. They've really embraced the role of the villains of college hockey. And with that, guys are coming after your stars. They're laying big hits. And that's why you have guys like Shea Van Olm, like Carter Shade, Lev Katzen, Luke Misa, who are willing to sort of mix it up a little bit. And even Gavin McKenna's been a 1-2 punch all by himself on the ice. So they really have that grit, and you're going to need that going into the stretch run, especially if you're getting some of those guys back where you're going to need to protect them a little bit on the ice.
Yeah, absolutely. Those young players, the newcomers, Flem, Gavin, Jackson Smith even, have been a real bright spot for the team this year. Now, looking ahead, Penn State hosts number 12 ranked Wisconsin this coming week. And then after that, it is the Big Ten tournament the following week where they will host their first game against a to be decided opponent. Nate, what does Penn State need to do to bring the dominance and bring some momentum into the Big Ten tournament, hoping to make a run like they did last season?
Well, for them, it all really starts this weekend with Wisconsin, and you just have to get back to playing Penn State hockey, which it feels like Guy Gadowski says after every loss that they have, and even some of the ugly wins that they've had just all throughout the year. So it's just playing their brand of hockey and knowing the talent that they have, not being afraid to take the shot, not being afraid to sometimes make that extra pass, and also just getting back to the idea of what they can be. We all know what they are. We've seen it throughout the year. In the first round against the Big Ten tournament, it's Ohio State or it's Minnesota. 2 teams that you went a combined 7-1 against this year. So the talent is definitely there. And then it's Michigan State, who you were on the brink of beating in overtime twice this year. The 1 game at Michigan State on Saturday in November, not all that great. But still, the 3rd game, you only lost by 1 goal before a couple empty netters sort of inflated that score from what they were. So just playing to their talent level, they can match up with anyone, and we could see them make a run, much like they did last year to the Frozen Four, a run many people were predicting to make when they got Gavin McKenna in July.
Yeah, I think looking at this weekend, Wisconsin is going to be a super tough team. And I sound like a broken record, but you have to stay out of the box, especially in this series. Wisconsin's really good. They're 4th ranked in the power play. So that's obviously going to be something that you need to look out for this weekend. But then just looking ahead, Guy Gadowski has talked about it so much that the Big Ten is such a powerhouse of a conference, especially in college hockey. You never know what's going to happen, especially in a tournament like this, where you could either play Ohio State or Minnesota, and then if you win, you keep going. You never know what's going to happen. So I think the key point here is just playing Penn State hockey.
Absolutely. No, the number 5 ranked Nittany Lions will play their final regular season games against 12 ranked Wisconsin this Thursday and Friday before the 3-seeded Penn State will host the to-be-decided 6th seed in the first round of the Big Ten tournament March 11th. Now we will take a look at our top plays of the week.
At number 3, we have Fleming's diving save, keeping Ohio State out of the net, securing Penn State's win.
At number 2 for Penn State wrestling, it's Marcus Blaze with the 3-point takedown for this upset win. Marcus Blaze was number 4, and Ohio State's wrestler was Ben Davino, number 2.
And at number 1, we have an impressive goal by Gavin McKenna, securing the overtime win in the legacy game against Ohio State.
Look at that energy in Pagula for Gavin McKenna.
Looking ahead, it's another busy week for Penn State sports. On Wednesday, baseball has their home opener as they host St. John's. They also travel to Texas Tech on Friday for a 3-game series. On Saturday, softball will play in 2 games in the Hokie Invite, the first against JMU and the second against Virginia Tech. Men's basketball plays its last home game on Wednesday against the Buckeyes for their senior night. Then they hit the road and play Rutgers on Sunday. On Saturday, men's volleyball will travel to Long Beach State.
Men's hockey will be at home to face Wisconsin on Thursday, and women's hockey will also be hosting Mercy Hertz in the AHA Championship. Wrestling will be competing in the Big Ten Championship at the BJC this weekend. Women's lacrosse takes on Colgate at home on Wednesday and travels to San Diego State on Saturday. The men's team will stay at home this weekend to host Cornell on Saturday. For more content, be sure to follow us on Instagram and X, and look out for weekly sports updates and packages here on YouTube. For everyone behind the scenes and our beat reporters and our producers, for Brianna Langberg, I'm Erin Riley. Have a great night.